Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And I do just want to say something real quick. Within this space, you really have to make sure that you are following the right people, especially when it comes to news. Just recently, we've seen Whale Chart post these crazy ideas around how Gary Gensler is going to resign and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of big influencers actually played into this. I think I seen BitBoy actually post a video around this. Listen, the biggest problem that we have in the space is engagement farming. As we do see here from Ambessa, which, by the way, if you guys don't follow Ambessa over on Twitter, I do suggest you guys do. He's a great individual to look into for a lot of information around the market, especially around TA, if you haven't already. But we do see you'll never get back the time you waste on Telegram discussing this big thing. Trust me, bro. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a joke, but it's still right on par, right? And here we have from Whale Chart. Just in, SEC dismisses rumors of Chairman Gary Gensler's resignation. This was 2 hours ago. And then here we have a day ago, breaking, anonymous official at the SEC has reportedly disclosed that Chairman Gary Gensler is going to resign following an internal investigation. This is big. Come talk about it in our Telegram, link in Twitter bio. This, all of this engagement farming, like this got 1.7 million views, almost 14,000 likes. You know, when we look at this, you can clearly see why they are making these types of tweets. It gets a ton of publicity, right? The issue is that they build up their communities off of this type of news. The biggest problem that I see with this is that there's never any sources at all. This is one of the biggest clowns in this space. This Twitter account, there's been like 4 or 5. There's been a ton of them in the past around this like Whale Chart, and even we see a response like, this is that same crypto whale guy. Yeah, it is. This is the same one that's been pushing these nonsense articles. If you go all the way back to 2020 and 2021, this was also the same individual that was posting bearish tweets the entire time around Bitcoin crashing 90+%. Okay, when you're posting tweets about, Bitcoin dropping 90+% when it's at 5K, 10K, 20K, and then all of a sudden it finally happens when it hits 70K. That's not an accomplishment, right? So as we do look at this, like, this is the biggest problem that I see around Twitter. Make sure that if you are looking into anything like this, especially of this substance, make sure that you are finding a trusted source. This needs to be avoided at all cost. Now, talking about this, is Gary Gensler going to resign? We don't know, right? A lot of people have been coming to this idea around, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he does, which, again, would I be surprised if he does? I honestly don't care. And I'm going to talk to you guys about why here in a second. But we do see, I would not be surprised if Gensler resigns soon. His only political future rests on bowing out gracefully in order to do this administration a solid in an election year. Because we are making him an issue that could cost Democrats the Senate and key electoral college states by. And we do see we need Patrick McHenry. We do see Johnny Deaton mentioned a few people here and others on the FSC to subpoena all records, emails, correspondence, and notes regarding all meetings and communications between Gary Gensler and the SEC Gov and SBF fraud and FTX official. But you see, yes, and a little puzzling that this hasn't already happened. FTX was one of the great financial frauds of our time. When the SEC missed the Madoff Ponzi, the result was a 450-page Inspector General report. The chairman, Cox at the time, was questioned under oath in that investigation. Now, again, as we do look at the space, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is Congress as well. I do believe that Congress will be the one to regulate this space. The issue is, how long is that going to take? Because again, there's a lot of lovely bankers on board with Congress. Brad Sherman is one of them. As we do look at this, we recently seen a big move by some Republicans, as we do see over here, Jim Jordan, James Comer, as well as Patrick McHenry. Now, Cowboy Crypto is posting this. He's responding back to Roll XRP over on Twitter. But we do see they also raised disturbing questions regarding your own commitment to holding the SEC accountable to the same standards that you seek to impose on the individuals and entities you regulate. The American public deserves a capital markets regulator that plays by its own rules, not that or not one that acts above the law. And we even do see, please provide complete and accurate responses to the following request no later than July 17th, 2023. There's a few things here, but this one down here. Explain whether any SEC employees, including yourself, have used off-channel communication to conduct official SEC business. If so, provide a list of all such platforms and all SEC employees who have used off-channel communications for official business. And then, of course, over here, we do see the three major players here. Now, again, listen, I want you guys to understand that with Congress, yes, I believe that Congress will be the ones that bring regulations to the space, either them or even the FSB, which I've talked about in many videos before. I don't think that the SEC really matters all that much. I've said it many times in the past. The SEC has really no jurisdiction over crypto. I think recently, yes, they've been creating this flood around crypto where, they're making these broad statements around which tokens are and aren't securities and currencies. I don't know why XRP is still not listed on Coinbase. I think that that's ridiculous. The SEC in the last couple of years, in my opinion, have lost a lot of weight to their name around the space especially. But as we do look at this, a lot of these major moves and a lot of these major, things that are coming out around, House Republicans, especially even with, Congress blasting Gary Gensler during the Financial Committee. And then you had Brad Sherman, of course, again, another Congress member, basically applauding what Gary Gensler was doing. There's a lot of misconception here. It's not going to be a very easy, all right, let's push regulations through from Congress. It's not going to be that. It's going to still take a lot of time. I think Johnny Dean predicted 2025. It could happen around 2025 or even after. Do I think that the Ripple case, though, will be cleared up before 2025? A lot of people believe it's going to be cleared up this year, which it can, right? I've talked about this. A ruling can happen anytime. It's in the judge's hands. We just have to be patient. I'm not going to sit here and predict when we will see that ruling, but we do know that will happen at some point in time here soon or in the later months of this year. We don't know specifically when, but we're hopeful that it happens in 2023. But it could still push on to 2024, 2025. We don't know how long this judge can take on this ruling, but it can take some time. But we have to be patient, right? And we have to make sure that we are avoiding these fake rumors around the space. It's nonsense that we continue to see this, especially with the headlines breaking. And anyone that plays into this on YouTube is just trying to get clicks for you guys. I'm just telling you that right now. But also we do see over here, now, mind you, whale coin talk is not the same as whale chart. I know it can be very confusing. But we did see a few announcements around the Monetary Authority of Singapore, actually. The MAS orders crypto firms to safeguard customer assets in a trust by year end. Additionally, staking and lending services are now off limits to retail customers. Now, there's a pro and con here. The pro here is that, yes, it seems as though they are taking the right step. The negative here is the fact that staking and lending services are now off limits, but this is high risk, right? Like when you stake and lend on a platform in terms of like a crypto exchange, it's a big problem. I've talked about this, right? I would not be staking my coins on an exchange and locking them up. I actually think that this is a big step in the right direction. Do I think that we should get rid of staking and lending for retail? No, I don't think so. I think that if we can have staking and lending that is secured and it's not high risk, then that's fine. But for the problem here, right? It's the idea of staking and lending on exchanges that are not regulated, that are playing with customer assets. This is the biggest problem that happened with FTX. But a few things here that I personally love is segregate customer assets from its own assets and held in a trust. Lovely. Safeguard customers' monies. Conduct daily reconciliation of customers' assets and keep proper books and records. Amazing. Maintain access and operational controls to customers' DPTs in Singapore. Ensure that the custody function is operationally independent from other business units and provide clear disclosures to customers on the risk involved in having their assets held by the DPT service provider. This is great. I think that this is huge. And this is all following an October 2022 public consultation on regulatory measures to enhance investor protection and market integrity in DPT services. I think that this is incredible. And although, FTX could have very well have been utilized as an example for this, but this was happening back in October, a month actually before FTX imploded. I still think that this is right on par. And this is the right moves that we need to be seeing around this space. We should demand exchanges to do this. You know, exchanges shouldn't be utilizing customer funds. Customer funds and their own assets should 100% be secured away from the actual assets that an exchange has. This is a great step in the right direction, and I applaud the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Singapore has been very, very good in terms of creating regulatory frameworks and allowing innovation to thrive within Singapore, especially with the recent Ripple announcement with MAS. Also, South Korea took the first step towards the digital asset framework by passing a crypto bill for user protection. This is great to see. It seems as though a lot of these areas are pushing heavy on crypto regulatory frameworks now. The UK being a major stepping stone just recently. And now South Korea. MAS is moving pretty quickly as well. I love to see this. And also, by the way, I seen something pretty interesting happen around Argentina recently. So this just happened about 4 hours ago at the time that I'm reading this. We do see Latin Insights. Argentina settles IMF payment in yuan. Brazilian CBDC to be launched in 2024. Now, I'm going to focus on this a little bit later in another video where we do talk about CBDCs with Ripple, because we do know that Brazil is a big one, especially for, Ripple. Brazil has been a big stepping stone for Ripple to expand their services. As we do look at CBDCs within Brazil, yeah, it's happening. The interesting thing about this announcement is Argentina with the IMF and avoidance of the US dollar. If we go back in time, this is April 24th. IMF to bail out Argentina only if the country adopts an anti-crypto stance. You know what happened from this? Crypto usage rises across Argentina despite the anti-crypto IMF deal. This was 2 days after. As we look at this, right, I think that there's a big war happening. And the war is that we're going to utilize crypto to counteract CBDCs. I think that this could get very interesting, especially as more and more crypto adoption happens. A lot of these areas like Argentina are most likely going to be the first ones to have a full-on CBDC. Brazil is moving pretty quickly as well. This is right on par. This is right on par with everything happening around the CBDC narrative. As we do look at what's happening here with the IMF as well in terms of like the Chinese yuan, we know that this has become a big problem and a big deal, right? It's been spotlighted for a while. De-dollarization's happening. What are they going to do? Are they going to push for a CBDC now? In my opinion, as we look at de-dollarization, that's also going to take some time. But I will say this. It's also a narrative that I think everyone should keep a close eye on, because as more and more challenges arise around the US dollar, especially a lot of these nations that are now pushing heavily back against the US dollar, this is going to be a trend that continues. As this trend continues, there's going to be more and more pushes for a CBDC, especially within the States. They're going to say that it's going to help retain anchor in terms of the reserve currency. This is not going to be the case. Again, I've talked about how a CBDC system will work. All of these nations will have their own CBDC reliant on their own currency. So they will have de-dollarization. But the problem is that, guess what? There's not going to be a reserve currency anymore. It's going to be a full-on decentralized system. That's, of course, how I look at it. I might be wrong, though, right? The big thing here is within Argentina, although they are pushing to utilize the yuan, and even recently, by the way, this is with the IMF recently wanted Argentina to be anti-crypto. And from there, it pushed a lot of the nation into utilizing crypto, which I thought was pretty interesting. So as we look at this, right, like as we continue to see a lot more this like anti-crypto stance continue, I think it's going to push more and more people into crypto. I think that's actually going to be very beneficial, which is also why I said, like, negative news always isn't negative news around crypto. It's actually, sometimes it could be very positive. Remember when India and China were trying to ban crypto? It caused a little bit of a hiccup in the market, but for the most part, the market picked back up and it skyrocketed. It's because retail thrives off of negative news. You know, at first, yeah, like a lot of people will get shaken out, they will sell their bags, but then guess what? They buy them back at a higher price anyways. It's the number one reason why retail continues to fail. But I think that this is very interesting. I'm going to be talking more so about the Central Bank of Brazil and this CBDC. We know that there's been a lot of connections to Ripple. Do I think that Ripple's tied to a Brazilian CBDC? Well, you'll find out in another video. I will be doing a video on that here soon. Probably tomorrow or so, we'll have to see. But nonetheless, make sure that you are being vigilant with the news that is being spread over on Twitter. Make sure that you are aware of what's real and what's fake. I don't think that Gary Gensler is going to resign anytime soon, at least. We'll have to wait and see. It could happen, though. It could be a thing that happens, but I'm not going to report on it, and I'm not going to talk about it until it actually does happen. As we do look at what's happening even around the case, we've been seeing a lot of people, talking about this idea like, oh, the case is going to be settled next week, next month, next year. Like, listen, we just have to be patient now. That's it. And I don't mind, right? I don't mind being patient, especially in this market where we do have time to accumulate more and more XRP, especially even under 50 cents, which I do think is a great opportunity. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. So it's up to you all. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are on this beautiful. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.